welcome to the fourth of my build videos on the new Tamiya Plasma Edge 2 on the TT-02B chassis. Today we're going to concentrate on parts back C, which is steps 28 to 35. And as you can see here, step 28 is, what do they call it, checking RC equipment and installing the servo saver. Now there are loads of different options on what parts you need to use to install the servo saver, so I'm just going to go over what I've used. I've got a Tamiya TGY AN13 servo, which is metal geared, and because of that I've gone for the P4 plastic piece. You then need P5 and D10 and P1, and on the screws I've ended up using the MC1, the 3x10mm, and I've centered it all up and screwed it all together. Really easy, but obviously you may need to use D11 if you've got a different servo, and different screws if you've got plastic gears. So with that we can crack on and get on with step 29. Step 29 is attaching the servo stay, and for this we're going to need the servo and metal parts, 2 off of MB4 3x12mm tapping screws, 2 off of MC2 3x8mm tapping screws, 2 off of MB14 3mm washers, and then plastic parts A7, D6, 2 off of C4 and 2 off of A3, and I think that's where we'll start. So we get the servo, we check, you'll see there's a flat on one side and a curve on this one, so that's the way it goes. We take one of the 8mm screws and one of the washers and pop it through the top hole of your servo and hold it all together and screw the thing in. Like so, and don't tighten it too much, because I think this part A7 or A3 is on the softer plastic, and then we can do the same for the other side. Then we can take D6 and one of the C4s, and it looks to me, I think that might be the easiest way, and it says to use a pair of long nose pliers, and we just squeeze it in, hopefully, there we go, and the same like that. And then we need one of the 12mm screws, and it needs to go through that arm and it needs to screw into this. It says can't get it like that, I hope. And that should be it. I'll just pop this on and we can move on to the next step. Step 30 is attaching the steering servo, and for this we're going to need metal parts MA1, 1 off 3x10mm tapping screw, 2 off of MB3 14mm step screw, 1 off of MB4 12mm tapping screw, 2 off of MB6 10mm countersink screws, 4 off of MC2 8mm screws, 2 off of MC5 2x10mm screws, and 2 off of MC10, which are 2mm washers. Now, before we start, I'm not going to be using MC2, MC5s or MC10s because you use them to mount the motor cover, which also holds the on-off switch for your ESC. And I think at the minute, because it's a buggy and it's going to be covered, I'm going to leave that cover off just to let a bit more air get to the motor, especially as it's brushed torque tuned. So I'm not going to do that part of this step. I'm just going to install the servo. So for that we need obviously the servo and the chassis. And I think I'll zoom out a bit for you. And from looking at this, we're going to be installing it somewhere around there. And we're going to need the two MB6s, which are the countersink screws. And put that one in there. Could be it, yep. And again, I'm not tightening them massively tight because they're quite soft plastic. There we go. And that's the servo in. And then we just need to... Okay, so my first mistake. I don't know, in my rush I've ended up putting on CA7 the wrong way round. So I've just rectified that, and now we need the two step screws. Yes, indeedy. To screw into these steering arms. Hopefully. And there we go. That's rather tight. There we go. Oops. One slightly wobbly steering. So let's get on in. Step 31 is installing the RC units. So we've got the ESC and one of my trusty old 27 megahertz AM receivers, because I can't get any digital ones at the minute for my transmitters. So we're going to have a wibbly wobbly with this again. I'll just get on. I'll put the supplied double-sided tape on. Also, because I'm not using that box, I've got part D12, which is the aerial holder, and because of that I've also got MB6 3mm 3x10mm countersunk tapping screw. So I'll get all that put in and be back to you shortly. There we have ESC, receiver, the motors installed, yellow to yellow, green to blue, and the orange not used because it's brushed, and the battery cables, and it's all ready to go. And we can move on to step 32, which is installing the tyres onto the wheels. Step 32 is putting the tyres on. So as you can see here, I've already done 3 because they're a bit tricky and do take quite a bit of strength sometimes. Nothing different about these, so there's actually text and numbers on both sides, so it doesn't matter which way round you do it. And the instructions recommend you install them like this. And then the other side, and there we have one tyre fitted, all ready to go onto the buggy, so we can swiftly move on. Step 33 even is installing the front and rear wheels onto the chassis itself, and for this we're going to need 2 off of MA1s 3x10mm tapping screws, 4 off of MA10s 2x10mm shafts, 4 off of BB2s 1150 bearings, and 4 off of MC7 flanged lock nuts 4mm. And then we'll also need this plastic part here, A1, which is the rear spoiler mount. And I think we should just crack on. So if we take the front wheel, we get a front wheel, we get a bearing, pop the bearing in, quite a loose fit there. Get one of the 10mm shafts, pop it through, and then search somewhere for me 12mm hex. Here it is. I forgot that we'd need them. Those are B4s, and pop it on, and that's quite a loose fit. Some of these are quite tight, and then we just get the wheel, pop it on, and then one of the flange nuts, and we just tighten it up like so, and then the nut spinner, and we keep going until it's tight, like so. And we need to make sure that some of the axles showing, to ensure that the thread lock, not the thread lock, the nylock has engaged so that it shouldn't wobble loose. And we just do that for the other 3 even. Now the 4 wheels are on, we've just got to pop this piece on, which was, what was it, A1? And that goes in here, and there's 2 locating lugs for it to slot in, and then you should just screw in. So we just need to do that. And there we have that rear spoiler mount fitted, and we can move on to step 34. Step 34 is attaching the front and rear body posts and the battery holder and also the rear wing, but there is a note here saying the rear wing types vary according to model, refer to separate body instructions. So I think I'll leave that for a bit, but going through the parts you're going to need. We're going to need 4 MC2s 3x8mm tapping screws, those are the darker coloured ones. 2 MA4s, which are 3x10mm flanged tapping screws, and 2 MC11s, snap pins, or R-clips as I call them. And then we're going to need 2 C6 body posts and 1 A13, which is the other side of the rear wing holder. And then lastly D1, which is the battery holder. So I think the battery holder can just slot on like so, with a couple of pins, he says, if he's put them the right way round. Yeah, there they go. 1 and 2, and then the body posts are both the same, front and rear, doesn't matter which goes where, and each one has a screw in each side. And then for the wing, if we just get this, you should be able to see it slots in like so, if you can see that, and then the flanged screws will hold it all together like that. But I think I might have a look and see if I decide to put the decals on the wing before I fit it. So I think I'll leave that off for now, and then we'll just finish putting this on and tightening these screws up, and that should be the chassis finished. With that, that has actually taken me, how long has it taken me? Just about 8 hours from start to finish, and that is with coffee breaks. So there we have it. What I did find is the rear suspension, I think, is a bit weak compared to the front. So I've started off and I've put the medium spring tensioner on, but even looking at that, I don't think that's going to be quite enough, but I'm going to leave it like that and just make the one change. As I say, I've got to cut the hole out, but we'll do that in the bodywork video. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed following this build series, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Cheers, bye.